Virtual reality, a concept that once seemed confined to science fiction, has now become an integral part of the gaming industry. But how did we get here? What were the key milestones in the evolution of VR? And what does the future hold for this immersive technology? In 1832, Charles Wheatstone invented the stereoscope using the concept of stereopsis, meaning to display a slightly different image to each eye, simulating human vision and allowing for a sense of depth to be felt by the viewer. It was this foundation that formed the basis for VR's upcoming innovations 100 years in the future in the 1960s. The year was 1960, and things weren't going great. After World War II, a Cold War emerged between the United States and Soviet Union, each of which doing whatever they could to outdo the other. During the Cold War, the American government made great technological investments to compete with the USSR, and nowhere was this seen better than in STEM fields. Particularly, institutions like NASA and MIT received massive funding to further America's Cold War lead. This funding, combined with the expertise of MIT computer scientist Ivan Sutherland, would culminate in the creation of the aptly named Sword of Damocles. This was the first head-mounted display to ever be produced, and it was so incredibly heavy it needed to be held up by a mechanical arm to keep it from pinning the user down. Its purpose? It displayed a wireframe cube, which would rotate while the user tilted their head. In 1968, this was a groundbreaking innovation, being the first primitive instance of head tracking in VR. In parallel with academic research, pioneers like David M. at the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory were exploring the potential of virtual reality for scientific visualization and space exploration. David M.'s work on what he dubbed navigable virtual worlds paved the way for the use of virtual reality in fields ranging from engineering to education. These worlds were an early example of what we now know as immersive VR experiences. In the late 20th century, VR was making its first commercial strides. In 1989, Jaron Lanier, founder of VPL Research, unveiled the iPhone, a precursor to modern virtual reality, showcasing the potential for immersive interaction with computer software. However, despite these innovations, the technology was still largely inaccessible to the average consumer, due to high costs and limited computing power. By the dawn of the new millennium, there was a long gap in VR development as companies recovered from the dot-com bubble, unless you want to count whatever this is. However, interest in VR surged back during the 2010s, with mobile phone VR and AR taking off on both Android and Apple app stores. In 2012, a Kickstarter campaign by Oculus founder Palmer Luckey reignited public interest in VR, raising over $2.4 million and sparking a new wave of development in the industry. The release of the Oculus Rift in 2016, alongside other VR headsets like the HTC Vive and PlayStation VR, marked the beginning of a new era for virtual reality, bringing immersive experiences to living rooms around the world. Much of today's VR technology is positioned towards gaming, namely the Oculus Quest series, as well as the countless headsets under the umbrella of Valve's Steam VR. Games like Half-Life Alyx and Boneworks show the power of VR as a storytelling medium, while games like Pavlov VR show that the classic mechanics of older games can also work in a VR environment. Today, virtual reality continues to evolve at a rapid pace, with advancements in hardware and software pushing the boundaries of what is possible. Companies like Apple are investing heavily in VR technology, envisioning a future where virtual reality becomes an integral part of everyday life. And whether or not they're right is now a multi-billion-dollar question. From social VR platforms to immersive storytelling experiences, the possibilities are endless, and the line between the real and virtual worlds continues to blur. As we look to the future, it's clear that virtual reality will play an increasingly important role in how we interact with technology, shaping the way we work, play, and connect with one another. Thank you very much for watching.